Welcome to Focus here on Classic Country 980 and 105.3 FM KSGM. I'm talking to John Wise, a videographer who's been posting travel videos on YouTube since 2020 on a part-time basis because I guess his regular job is track and field coach at Wichita State University, where you have loved being a Shocker. And I always thought that was a great name for a team, the Shockers.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's unique, for sure.
It is unique. So, John Wise, welcome to the program. Welcome to the KSGM Radio. And the reason I wanted to talk to you is not too long ago, you produced a video of a tour along a road known as Three Notch Road, which ran from Mine-la-Motte to Sainte Genevieve. And matter of fact, before I heard what you say on the video where the destination was, I already knew. I figured, I know where he's coming. He's coming here. So John, tell me, first of all, how'd you come to find out about Three Notch Road, and how'd you come to video it? And I understand you have produced quite a few videos, and you have a YouTube channel that I got a chance to look at, and you've been a lot of places. But and I like your, I think you did some ghost towns too, as I recall. So
yeah, I've been doing it. Sorry, I appreciate you having me. First of all, thank you very much. I've been doing it for about 3 or 4 years now, and I really like small towns, rural places. I grew up on a farm in Ohio, actually, before I moved out to Kansas, and so I always like taking the road less traveled, I guess you could say. And in this particular case, I was actually on my way to Florida. I was meeting my family in Florida for Christmas, and I decided to drive to Florida from Kansas and take the scenic route. And so I'd gone US 50 for a couple of days, and I documented US 50 through Missouri. And then when I got to that point, I was looking about going south, and so I just started trying to research some interesting places, and like you said, maybe some ghost towns or some just some historical areas. And I just stumbled upon the Three Notch Road story, and it was in the general vicinity of where I was going. And it was really interesting, kind of quote the oldest road, or, something. Road is a loose term, loosely used, term for something like that. It was a dirt path that would probably had horses and walking paths and different things on. But, then found a good article that gave approximate different route connecting the roads that are there today with approximately what it was. There's an old mill that was kind of the center point of the video for me. It was about halfway between the two. And so going up that path was fun to explore. And at the end of the video, one of the things I said was I didn't really know what I was looking for along the path. I just was going to follow the path and see what turned up. And I found some really interesting things, found some churches and cemeteries and a few, you could call them ghost towns or unincorporated communities, and certainly that mill. So it was a lot of fun. I'd never been in that area before, and so it was a good way to learn about the local old back roads.
And did you find out how it got its name, Three Notch Road?
Yeah, so back then there were different ways. There weren't road signs or anything like that we have today. So they, in order to try to keep the path going so people could follow it, they would put 3 notches in the tree. And that would help the next person come to just follow the path where the 3 notches are, and that will lead you to Sainte Genevieve in this case. There's other 3 notch roads across the country. And so when I put that video out, other people commented, hey, there's a 3 notch road here in Georgia. There's a 3 notch road in Iowa. I know there's different things, like there's a white fence road, and different farmers would paint their fences white, and that would lead the path to a certain place. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it got its name of Three Notch Road.
And I think you said that the number of notches indicated what kind of road it was.
Yeah, I put a little graphic in there, and it would say, how, I guess, significant the road was. Mm-hmm. 3 notches was more significant than 2 notches, and 1 notch would be less significant. So, yeah, pretty interesting way of how they decided to mark the road. You see in a movie, they would leave, some sort of a trail behind them, and that was their method of doing it, was putting notches in the trees. Obviously, you need trees to be able to do something like that, and there were a lot of trees along this path for sure, with the Mark Twain National Forest. It kind of goes through there. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, made for a pretty drive, that's for sure.
Well, and the word trailblazer, that is a derivative that comes from that. if you're talking about blazing a trail, that's what it means, notching it. Yeah. Because when you cut the bark off, the lighter wood shows through, so it's really easier to see. And I was going to say, perhaps the 3-notch road was the equivalent of the interstate. The 2-notch road was kind of like a side highway, and then the little farm to market roads are the 1-notch road, right?
Yeah, that obviously back in the 1700s they were trying to, in this case they were trying to get their lead from the mines at Mine Lamont over to the Mississippi River, and so certainly was a very important road. Mm-hmm. And it went over to the river where the mill was in the video, and there were lots of different mills along that area, and crossing the river would have been a difficult thing to do, but the road went where it did, where I went, because that apparently was a little easier place to cross. There were no bridges at that time, like there are today. And so, yeah, it's fascinating to think about what they were doing. Obviously, back then they didn't think that was a probably difficult trek, as we would imagine how hard it would be comparing it today. That was just normal life. And
yes,
it was, and obviously it helped people kind of settle Missouri. This was before it was even the United States. And so that's interesting to think about, how that road was a significant part of Missouri's history.
I always feel for the surveyors who were first out here. Back then you didn't have any kind of path. You had to have your machete or your axe with you, and had to cut through all the brambles and the brush, etc., to try to survey this land and divide it up into sections. And that must have been really a tough job. And I happen to know a surveyor, and he's agreed with me that those guys really had it rough. So who knows? There may have been one of those guys may have been involved in laying the track for the 3-notch road. And it maybe followed an old Indian trail, or maybe followed a wildlife trail. I know a lot of roads began that way.
That's correct. Yeah, I've come across other roads in my travels that were just like that. I was in Iowa early this year, and it was an old wildlife trail that, like you just said, became a Native American trail. Then became the main road through the county. Mm-hmm. And but some of those old surveyors, and then the craftsmanship and some of the old mills they made was just remarkable. And to think about how they had to get those materials there, and I always have tons of respect for those people, what they were accomplishing back then, that things I couldn't do. So,
exactly.
They had way less to work with than I do today.
Yeah, you mentioned the burnt mill, and that's a common landscape that we've known about for a long time here in St. Genevieve County, burnt mill. And I never got close to it, though. I never went down to the site. So I appreciate you going down there and doing that video. That was very interesting.
Fortunately, I went in the winter, and there wasn't as many trees or leaves on the trees, so it was easier to see. I think probably in the summertime, or when it's more green in the area, it's probably hard. It's hard to even see it driving by.
Exactly.
So I got lucky. I got lucky going, at this time of the year. But what a beautiful old structure, and going down to be near it was really impressive.
We're talking with John Wise. He's a videographer. He has a YouTube channel where he puts his videos on, and we're talking about right now the 3-notch road video he did that includes Sainte Genevieve, at least gets us to Sainte Genevieve from Mine Lamont. And you've done other videos. I know lately you had a video that you did of Key West, Florida, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that was the 3-notch road was, like I said, on the way to Key West, and I originally wasn't going to do a video about Key West, but I got down there with my family. I was just going to spend a few days there. But I've been there a couple times, and my family had not been there, and we decided, well, let's walk around and see as many historical places as we could. And I thought, well, that might fit in with what I'm doing, some historical areas. There's most people think Key West is just a beautiful place, maybe a place to go party or something like that, but there's a lot of history down there. And so we took a couple of days and saw everything we could, and then I just documented it and put it together in a video.
Very good.
It was something different. Usually I'm in smaller towns, more rural places, but certainly that mixed it up a little bit with that video.
You also have done a few ghost towns. Tell me about some of those.
Yeah, that was actually kind of the early thoughts about what the channel was going to be. I thought it might be just all ghost towns, and I'm fascinated with that topic. The first one that I really went to was Pritchard, Oklahoma, and that was one of the biggest ghost towns ever. It was a toxic contamination of the, from mining there, and so the whole town is 15,000 people that there's literally no one there anymore, and it's literally like a ghost town of crazy abandonment. So that was like the first one I did that got me hooked, and so then I started, well, this could be something I do, and other people seem to have some interest in it. There's a lot of books out there about ghost towns, and so anytime I'm in a state or going somewhere, I'm looking for little dots on the map that maybe were ghost towns or maybe they're unincorporated communities. Like mine, Lamont is, some people could call it a ghost town because it used to be pretty significant, and now there's just a small community of some houses there. Ghost town is you could argue what exactly a ghost town is, but if a town had several hundred people and now there's 20 people there, it's pretty much a ghost town. But I'm fascinated by the story of what happened to those towns. And out here in Kansas, it's because there's a lot of them because the railroad didn't come through the town, and so they end up moving the town, or the population didn't. That was the only way to get to some of these places was the railroad. In Missouri, there might be more things about mining. Kind of like the same as Colorado, there's a lot of mining ghost towns. So I always enjoy learning about what happened to those towns, because I grew up in places that are probably could be ghost towns just down the road from where I grew up. So it's fascinating. And if they have something left behind, like an old building or something, it just, I think about the glory days of when that was brand new and what was going on in that old town.
Mm-hmm. You bet. We're talking with John Wise, videographer. His YouTube channel is Travel with a Wiseguy, spelled the way you'd think it would be spelled. Great title for your channel there. I think that's wonderful. Travel with a Wiseguy. And you can check that out on YouTube. And he's got, like I said, lots of videos. You can spend an evening entertaining yourself with all these different videos that he has on there. There's one called 10 Smallest Towns in Missouri. He traveled the old Route 66 shortcut in the Cajon Pass. That's out where I grew up, Guy. I grew up in Southern California, used to go out the Mojave Desert a lot and went over that pass a lot. So it was kind of
that
neat.
was a beautiful part of the drive.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I may have crossed that before they put in the interstate. I know I went over the other pass, the one that goes up to Bakersfield. They all called that the old Grapevine, and I knew that we went over there before when it was still not an interstate. It was the old road, and he did a lot of winding. But anyway, John, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you so much for being my guest in Focus, and wish you all the best in your future video adventures. And just keep that camera with you. You never know when you might need it.
I appreciate it. I really enjoyed visiting your area. It's very beautiful. Thank you very much.
John Wise, and again, his video site on YouTube is Travel with a Wiseguy. Check it out on YouTube. That's our focus. Let's check our weather forecast.